Hello, everybody. Okay, over and over and over again, I have stated, several people have stated, that Donald Trump has a tendency of getting people to basically overlook his crimes. Now, when I say crimes, I want to specify um, now, the Mueller report has a lot of things in there that the Attorney General has blacked out to stop the public from realizing that the person who is now sitting in jail because of their involvement with the country of Russia. Now, let me explain a little bit on what I mean by not allowing the public to see what in depth they had with involvement of Russia. When you are part of a government entity, whether it be on a campaign dealing with the highest seat of our government, and you are invited from a foreign government to come and sit, either it be a dinner and or a public event where you are sitting with top officials from that government of a foreign entity, then you are going to hear and or say something about your country. Now, saying that, um, there are a lot of indictments that have been found guilty of the fact that instead of telling Congress the truth, they chose to basically not say a word. Okay? Now, true, not saying a word isn't actually lying, but Donald Trump isn't not just not saying anything, he's saying that, oh, well, that's not such a big deal. Well, yeah, it is, because here's a breakdown. When you are the president, if you go over to a foreign country and now we know that Donald Trump doesn't speak all these languages, and there is an interpreter in the room which is trying to explain to him what is being said to him. Well, when you tell the interpreter to hand over the notes of what was said so Congress can't see what you said, um, that is indeed a cover-up. Okay? Because, okay, let's say you're in a boardroom and the acting secretary is taking the minutes. Okay? That is just like an interpreter taking their minutes. Okay? Letting the public know exactly what was said in a meeting is important because we need to know exactly what is said during the said meeting so that certain steps can be taken to either change policy and or correct what a country or the entities that they are speaking with are conveying what they would like to see done. Okay? Now I understand that Donald Trump, he may or may not understand that the government is a business that has ran a lot longer than what he has been a businessman, and that there are rules that they have to abide by. The Constitution of the United States is a very, very, very intensely long document. There are a lot of updated laws that have been changed by lawmakers that is in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. Now, every day new laws are changed. It's not like, they set a law in granite and it stays that way forever. No. Just like in a courtroom, um, things can change from one minute to the next on how a judge may act on a certain term or can sit there and disagree with what is put out there in a courtroom for the jury to hear. Now, saying that, you need to understand that when a president blocks what a judge has stated and what a judge demands, just because you're president doesn't mean you can go, oh, well, the judge doesn't agree with me, so I'm going to refuse what that judge has asked for. Okay. In many cases, in our court system across the land, that is called contempt of court. That means they are disagreeing with the judge's findings. Now, granted, the president can't be held in contempt of court, nor can they be arrested, but it is a crime. Now, granted, It may not seem such a big deal, but if you keep breaking the same rules over and over and over again, and you keep denying subpoenas. Now, how many of us have been subpoenaed to court to work on a jury? I don't know if America is aware that if you don't answer a subpoena to court, that is considered a felony unless you are medically incapable of sitting on a jury. Now, but a subpoena of the value of which he is not answering is a subpoena which is telling him and the Attorney General to unedit the Mueller report, which means we want to see every word of every investigation on that document. Okay? Well, several of the lines that they have blacked out are exactly why the gentlemen of his campaign are now serving time in prison. Okay? The judge found them guilty. Okay? That's why they're in jail. Okay? And what we, the public, need to see, which is the most important thing, is the issues that were brought up in the Mueller report that show the wrongdoing of these men, so that in the Congress and House of Representatives can read clearly on exactly what they are dealing with. Now, that's not hard to understand. And we, the taxpayers, are always in the dark on what is being done in these meetings. Now, each state has their own Senate. That's why the governor of each state is like a mini president. And what is going on is that there's a lot of things that we're going to be voting for come June 4th that are just made out to look like, oh, it's a good thing. Well, for example, a bill called EE is coming through on June 4th, and people are voting for whether they want to pay more taxes or their rents to go up. The reason why I wanted to run for president and was told that I could physically not run because of my disability, and I accepted the fact that, yes, I'm not physically capable of actually going out on the road and pounding the pavement like the rest of the candidates. But I am educated enough to where I can make my statements clear. What is going on up in Washington is the fact that you've got two parties, the Republicans and the Democrats. Now, the Republicans may seem like they are for the poor people and that they want to cut our taxes and make everything hunky-dory for the poor, when that isn't the case. Republicans have always stood for and always will stand for the wealthiest of Americans. They want the poor communities to pay more taxes so that the wealthier communities don't have to. Now, this double E thing that is coming out on June 4th is so that our rents go up and our taxes go up, so that teachers are able to make classrooms smaller and to hire more teachers and to get nurses to be able to work in the schooling more than 1 day a week. Now, granted, sounds like a good deal, but do we have to pay more taxes when the money has been allocated for the same thing several years ago? That's why the tax went up on cigarettes. That's why the tax went up on anything dealing with tobaccos. That's why the so-called lottery was put into place, okay? Was that these monies were supposed to actually go to the educational budget. That's why people were paying into the lottery to begin with. That the first dollar off of every ticket was supposed to go for education. Now, that's not being done. Now people are becoming millionaires, and once they get the money, they're now told, okay, we made it capable for you to become one of us, the one percenters. So now you've got to play our game, or we'll put you right back at being poor. Because we'll tax the hell out of the money in which you received. Okay? And what people don't actually see is that most of these people end up paying taxes out their nose, and it's called a gift tax, which is over 30% of the money is taxed, to where the people really aren't getting exactly what is stated on the news. Okay? So, this is the facts. Do we want to pay more taxes for money that was supposed to have already been allocated for these schools? And they keep asking for more money and more money and more money and more money. Excuse me. Why not deal with the fact that if you've got good teachers that are already in place, then give them the stuff that they need. Okay? They need new books. They need pencils, paper, whatever the student may need to study in a classroom. And most young kids today have cell phones that they use for chatting and doing this and that they can use for the information to get off the internet. Okay? The internet's got anything and everything that a child needs in order to learn. Okay? You can actually study at home. That's why they have called homeschooling. So that way it keeps some of the subjects that some parents don't want their kids to know about. And that is same-sex marriage, same-sex sexual practices, but what happens is then you got people out there that aren't aware of what the gay and lesbian and transgender people are going through, which is called discrimination. And some of these landlords and some of these people are voting to where transgender people aren't allowed to be held by doctors in middle America, are being forced out of the military, and are being told, no, you're not a different sex. You just can't handle the sex you're in. And this is a major problem because just like a woman has the right to say, okay, government, tell me whether or not I can end a pregnancy. Well, it's not up to the government, number one. It's up to the individual. If they feel that they cannot afford and or handle a child at this time, then they should have the right to end a pregnancy, whether it be 6 weeks, 6 months, or up to the third trimester. Granted, there are heartbeats, but it's sad to say that when a government butts into a woman's private affairs, that they should get involved, because I think it's up to the woman and it's up to her doctor. And suing the doctors or arresting the doctors for doing what their patients feel that is necessary for them is wrong. And for any government official who is going against women's rights on their bodies is wrong. Oh yes, I do pay attention to what's going on in other states. I may be sitting here in California, but I watch enough news to where I can read between the lines on what's going on with America. I love America. I love what it stands for. It's got the freedom of choice, the freedom to speak your mind. And I feel that our freedoms are being taken away from us by people who believe in a book that was written in order to control the masses way back before mankind had governments that had a brain. Okay? And we need to come up to 2016, or 19, 2019, and understand that what is written in that book does not hold true to what's going on today. And we need to start looking at today's society and stop looking at past ways that they did things tens of thousands of years ago. Okay? We need to actually look at today's numerous problems and fix them. We don't need to raise the rents. We don't need to raise property taxes. We need to deal with the problems with the money that each state has for the problems that they may face on a day-to-day basis. And we need to start putting into practice a solid infrastructure of each viable part of our running each state. Does not take Congress. It does not take the federal government to step in and go, whoa. Okay? We're adults here. It's time to stand up and say, look, enough is enough. The original pilgrims that came over here escaped from England because they were overtaxed. And because of what's going on now, we're being overtaxed. There's nowhere else we can run because all the other land masses are already taken. Okay? We need to have things in place to where it can protect the consumer from being taxed out of their minds. And I'm hoping and praying that someone with any ounce of common sense would realize that you got people out there that are already wealthy, that are in these government places, like being a governor or being a senator or whatever. The only thing that they have up their sleeve is to, okay, we'll make the public pay some more. No. That's why we've got such a high deficit on what we have to get done. And adding more tariffs against this country and that country, that's not the answer. Because when it comes all down to it, who's going to pay the tariffs? It isn't those countries, it's the American citizens. And we need to stand up and say enough is enough. Okay? Thank you. My name is Sandy Chris, and these are my feelings. Thank you very much.